We said we're going to talk about Apple. That company's stock slide continues. Just so, Jim, I want to know what you make of this. The Chinese court grants this injunction to Qualcomm. Now there's a debate over which phones, if any, are actually banned. You're reporting on the ground, literally.
Well, I had pictures.
Photo evidence suggests that the phones are still being sold.
They are.
However, it's just another issue now for investors to deal with.
Right. I mean, look, I mean, this is a broken stock of a great company. And I think we all want to technically broken stock. And I think that at this point, you are getting the service stream as you want it. In other words, at $230, was the service stream worth some an appreciable amount of the market cap? Now I think you're finally getting it where it's a 12. Look, it's 12 times earnings. So let's say they don't make the number that everybody's using. It's 11. Let's say it's 13 times earnings. Now, great balance sheet. You may disagree with me because of the convert.
Oh, actually,
stock, I mean, the equity that the bonds that they issue.
It's not a negative that they've done that, but it's not a pristine balance sheet.
It's not a pristine balance sheet.
There's a lot of debt and a lot of cash.
Right. I want to make people understand that I'm not saying the balance sheet.
So I actually would like to issue a Doji alert on Apple. Really? I don't know if we have a graphic for Doji alert, but this could be a meaningful turning point in the stock today, right now. Here's the situation. The stock opened at 165, got down to a low of 163.33 this morning. The high was 166.88. So now you're back at 165. The buyers came in where they should have, and they battled all the way back up to the opening price. If you get a doji, what that signifies, I know we don't do candlestick charting on this network one day, but what that signifies is that the buyers have come in and changed the trend. So it's premature. Stock has to close here, but if it closes at 165, you will see the technician crowd get behind this name. If you're a fundamental investor, even if it's not a turnaround and it's not a doji signifying that trend change, guess what? This is the most profitable company, maybe in the history of the world, selling at a 30% discount to its highs at 12.4 times forward earnings, 14 trailing. Even if that 12.4 isn't accurate, you are still buying maybe the best company ever at a huge discount to where it was trading. So I like it for traders. I like it for fundamental investors. And I think that there's room to make a purchase and then have to make a lower purchase in the near future.
Again, that's
it's not
so
the worst thing.
I mean, you think about, you got Procter & Gamble.
Doji
it's
alert.
Growing very, I like the Doji word, but you got Procter & Gamble, you got Clorox, you got these companies that are growing very slowly, and they're consumer product companies. At this point, I really think you have to look at Apple as a consumer product company and decide, you know what?
Luxury.
Yes, luxury consumer product, and that you have to pick some up. But I have liked it and urged no trading. I say own it.
You said own Apple,
that was a great call at 20 that I made it in 50. Obviously, if someone who bought it at 230 listened to me wants to kill me. But I don't know. I've been consistent. There's nothing. I don't want to trade it.
What do you make of what Josh said about
Doji?
The technicals? The technicals.
The technical crowd is not with us on this until you
have to
decide if the activity that he sees in the stock, which it's now back above 165. If that sort of becomes that key level of where it opened today.
Well, I mean, first of all, you can, unless we actually know that the Chinese Communist Party has said, listen, we're not going to let them sell any more iPhones. And this province has one time issued another injunction years ago. Then I think that this is a news story that will evaporate. Qualcomm, Malenkov has been adamant that they are talking
with you.
Apple's
on Mad Money.
Apple's saying that they're not talking.
Not just on the sidelines, on Mad Money.
On Mad Money. He said it on Mad Money. I think that there's a dispute about that. But I will make this point that at what point does it have to sell at 9 times earnings? Are earnings going to collapse?
So two things on that. China has been a tough market for Apple anyway. It's not like that's their best market. They struggle every quarter. They have issues with China. That's A. So let's say the market right now is discounting that there will be an issue selling phones. Well, there's already been one. And now you've had $280 billion ripped out of the market cap. So let's not act like the street is waking up to this as a risk. Well, it could already be in the stock.
They're acting as if the $11 billion in Chinese sales this previous quarter is going to evaporate next, and that there's going to lose $40 billion in sales. And I just don't think that you can get an injunction in some small province. Of course, their provinces are bigger than anything we have, but that is really derailing if I have pictures of people buying them today. Earlier this morning.
Big buying in here today.
Call buying?
Huge call buying. December 170 calls. The Doji buyers. The Doji buyers were coming in.
I wore my Dojis last night. My wife said, what are you doing with the Dojis?
Judge, they bought 24,000 of these calls that expire on Friday.
Now
So it's a lot of people and this is stock.
Are you going to join them? I need to know.
I did.
You did.
I bought calls and I bought more stock. I bought stock, called our guys.
I'm just trying to get the level. Did you go in at this 160?
Look,
At 164.05
this is a
like
guys.
we bought more stock.
Guys, all we're talking about is a trend reversal candle.
But that's big.
It's
in free fall.
It's a big deal. Look, if you think a lot of money is run algorithmically, then you understand that the inputs are technical. If you think that a lot of short-term traders are managing risk on technicals, this maybe changes that sentiment. So I don't think the fundamentals of Apple have deteriorated to the point where it should have lost almost a third of its market cap. But that's what's happened. And I think maybe this is the kind of turnaround in an individual stock that could mean bigger things for the rest of the market.
It would be huge.
Nicely
This is the black hole stock.
Well, that's nicely off the lows, by the way.
Yeah.
You still have the pile on, though, from the research community, right? Citi cuts the
They're
price
always
target.
late.
They have to
They
cut the
loved
price
it at
targets, so
220.
They took the price targets up, so they have to take the price targets down.
Citi
How about the SMH?
cuts the target to 200.
It is a process that is unfolding over the last 8 weeks. When you look at large cap mutual funds, they are shedding the allocation towards Apple. When you look at hedge funds, they are shedding the allocation towards Apple. When you look at the analyst
Stock
community,
just took back 166,
the analyst
by the way.
community
Can we keep the intraday up for me, please? Sorry, Joe.
The analyst community, who is always late, is going to lower the price target. What does that do? That creates a perfect setup for 2019. And I think what's important is when you look at where the 10-year Treasury was when this process began, it was approaching 3.25. That's an environment where growth type stocks get challenged. The 10-year is back to 285. So at a 285 10-year, if I'm a large cap money manager, what do I want? Do I want value? Or do I want sustainable growth earnings in a low rate environment? I know the answer. We all know the answer in the desk.
Plus buyback, plus dividend, plus quality.
Apple checks all the boxes for that, but you have to allow for these final couple of weeks. I agree with
Everybody
both
has to cut.
You have to allow for
today.
the final 3 weeks. So
More downgrades.
You might
Here
have a
comes
doji at 165. I agree with
Nice
that.
downgrade coming.
But you might get another doji at 155. But I still think you buy
You know,
both.
you know what they say about two dojis, though.
You buy these when you can.
It's not optimal.
Not when you have to. You don't, like to Jim's point, you don't chase it up at 220, 230. But this one has come into you so much. Same thing with Facebook. I talked about it last week. We were buying it because of activity at 134. Pete talked about it with you Friday, Scott, for unusual activity. They announced a $9 billion buyback. I mean, these are companies that are going to continue to buy back shares.
There's so much cash.
That you're getting at a discount.
How badly, Jim, does the market need Apple?
Oh, I think it's really important. I think that Apple is representative of what's going on, whether it be trade, whether it be the price earnings multiple, whether it be the faith in the way that.
How about
It's the biggest stock in every ETF.
It's waiting.
It's the biggest stock in the Dow,
It's
biggest
just
stock in the
so
S&P,
important.
biggest stock in the NASDAQ. This is the name.
Listen,
It is. It's
this is the environment that we're in right now. And again, let's talk about Apple. So far, year to date,
It's gotten back, by the way, to.
Well, we just said, come on, the Doji's speaking, man.
No, I don't care whatever.
Cue the music and play the Doji.
S&P.
This stock's at the highs of the day.
And then
so
put a Doji picture.
Look at the volume.
And
Can we point out the volume today?
It's huge.
The volume is explosive today versus average daily.
The Qs will be positive within 20 minutes. That's how this stuff works.
Is this the halftime show that turned the whole market around? I refuse to believe in that. Talk about Alice in Wonderland. Jeez.
But the environment that we're in right now, when you're trying to identify which stocks are going to work, when you look at S&P 500 companies, so far year to date, companies that in the S&P you could identify as a strong balance sheet company, they're up 6%. Companies that are weak balance sheet, they're down 2%. Companies that have domestic sales, they're up 6%. Companies with international sales, they're down 5%. That's the exact environment that we're in right now. And when you're looking for opportunities in 19, those conditions aren't going to change.
You'll also notice, by the way, at the bottom right of your screen, as Apple rises, that boat is helping everything. The Dow is
so
way
important.
off of its low.
Well, if we agree that a lot of this is psychological, then that makes perfect sense. You can't,
sure does.
You can't have the biggest or the third biggest now stock of the world in free fall and expect to get traction in NVIDIA. It's just not going to happen.
By the
It's not how it
way,
works.
the algos are good right now. The algos are good.
Let me ask you this:
No one's complaining about algos.
Complaining right now. They're good.
DOJI.
From new tech to so-called old tech, Cisco, best idea.
Oh, well,
Cowen?
this is the
Think about
lowest
this.
risk large cap tech stock because the growth accelerated. The price of DRAMs, which is a key ingredient, is coming down. This is one where Chuck Robbins has fundamentally changed the company into an Internet of Things cybersecurity company with great growth. We still need the network. This stock barely got hit when the market came down. I know that Apple is everyone's looking at, but I think Cisco represents better buy.
And
Not
I know
just
you,
for trade.
and I know you're high on the job that,
I
that
think
Chuck
that
Robbins.
Who's
I
the
think
end
Chuck
customer
Robbins-
of Cisco, though? Is it like government and combination of government and large telecom? Like, is that
Not
what they're
as much
really
telecom
selling
as
into?
it used to be. It's really kind of Internet of Things. You're talking about huge amount of
large
government,
enterprise,
well, it's enterprise.
right.
And by the way, just so we know, they have put together a really great suite of cybersecurity in a world where my wife spent 6 hours because she was hacked on her phone. Apple for 6 hours. I think hacking has affected all of us. And Cisco has a fantastic suite that is really second to none. And they just did it because Chuck put it together. He's remarkable. He's remarkable. And what's really remarkable about him is he's a Falcon fan. And he still can come to work every day. He's able to handle
really bad
that.
season,
And he has Julio in his fantasy. And that's really about all that's really, other than the good earnings that he has, what he's got. And great wife and kids. But the fact is he's a Falcon fan.